Hello everyone. So today we are going to solve one of the most frequently asked question in the machine coding round of the startup. So we have to build a component which transfer item from one list to another list. So we have a list A and this is the list B and it contains some items HTML, JavaScript, CSS, TypeScript and React Angular Vue, Svelte. So and there is some checkbox. So you can click on this checkbox in and there are four buttons here. So there are two buttons have the double arrow key and the two have the single arrow key. So on the double arrow key, when you click on any of the button, it will transfer all the item from one list to in the direction of the pointed direction. So here if I click on this, so all the item from right comes to left, and if I click this, so all the item in the left goes to right. Now this single button will transfer only the checked item. So right now you can see there is no item, so this button is disabled. If I click on this, there are three items which is checked, so this button is enabled. And if I just make a few unchecked, and now if I click on this, then you can see there is one checked button. So this is enabled, but there is no checked button here, so it is disabled. And so you have to make this component, and you have to make sure of this disabled option as well. So you have to solve this question within 30 minutes. So just pause the video and try to do it by yourself. So I hope you are able to solve this question. If no, don't worry, we are going to solve it. So you can find the code sandbox link of this in the description or the GitHub repo. This is the task.js which mention all the tasks, and this is the app.js which contains some boilerplate. So before jumping to the problem, first of all we have to understand what will be the state of our component. So we have the two list. So there will be two states, and we can say that will be collection of items. Okay, so let's use the import. So import use state and create those two states from React. So I will give a simple name, list A and list B. You can say anything. Now the very first thing that we have to consider is what types of data type it should be. It should be array or something else. As I have mentioned, it is a collection of items. So whenever we think about the collection of items, list of items, we think the very first thing that comes to our mind is array. But think about it. In this problem, we are changing our array a lot. We are editing in our array, we are updating, we are deleting items from our array, and all these operations take O and time complexity. So is it worth it to use an array, or we can use something better? We will use the object for this problem because object is the type of hash table, and where deleting, editing, updating objects take only O1 time complexity. So an object contain the key value pair. So here our key will be the simple item and the value will be the boolean, and that means it denotes the whether our item is checked or unchecked. So let's create these two list. So we will initialize all these items with false because initially all these items are unchecked. Now let's create the UI. So let's remove everything because we need a dynamic list. And here I will say class name and give some basic styling, container. And now we will have a three div. The first will be of a list A, and then we will have a buttons, and then we will have a list B. Now inside this div, I will iterate over my list A, and how to iterate over an object using objects.keys. So this objects.keys will return an array of keys. So here I have to write the object name, and I will map over this array. So map over this array, and there we will have item, and from this item I will return simple div, and inside this div we will have an input which will be of type checkbox. Now I don't need a name, I need a ID, and ID is used for the label. So I will give the ID item, and then we will have a checked. Checked will denote whether our item is checked or not. So how to find this? We can find this with the list A item, and then we have to write some on change behavior also. But before that, let's write the label as well. So label, and label will be item, and inside this label we have to write HTML4 so that it will link with the our input box. So HTML4, and here I have to write item. So let's see if it's how it look. So HTML. Oh, I forget to write an on change. So here I have to write on change. So let's write on change. So what we have to do on change? So whatever the previous state, let's say HTML is false. So if I click on the HTML, so HTML will become true. So that we have to do. We will write on change, and on change I will update my what do you say, set list A, set list A, and here I keep the entire list A as it is and just update my HTML. So how to do that? I will say list A items, or I can say items will become list A of items. So now let's see if it's working or not. It will be item. Okay, let's press Ctrl Z and see if I click on HTML, it's clicking. Okay, so let's just console log it so that we can find it. Console.log list A. Let's clean this console and see currently if I click on this, HTML is true and rest all are false. If I click on this TypeScript, our TypeScript becomes true and rest all are false. So yeah, it's working perfectly fine, and we have to do the same thing for list B as well. So let's just copy it and paste it here. Okay, so rather than copy pasting, we can create a component. So let's create a new component, a name item list dot jsx, and here I will say const item list is equals to, and here I will return my this, and here I have to write default export default your item list. Now I have to write a div here, and inside that div this will come. Now there is two problems, so list A and list B. So rather than writing as list A, I will say it is a list and a set list. So let's change this to list. Now we can use the same component for both lists. So go there and just remove this thing, and rather than writing this, I will say item list is equals to list A, and set list is equals to set list A. As simple as that. And if I have to create second component, just copy it, just paste it, and here I will write list B, and here I will write list B. You can see how simple is that. What we have to do, first of all, let's add some buttons here. So there will be 4 buttons. Button is to 4. So we will have a 4 button, and the button will be first will be this. So if we write this case, then what will happen? In this case, it will mismatch with our closing test. So rather than writing in this way, we can use two things. First of all, we can use HTML entities. Let's say this is a less than sign, so we will use ampersand LT. So this way you can find it, but I would say this is also confusing. So rather than writing in this way, we will use a string. So let's use this way. Now let's do it for all. So this is, we will have a single, then we will have a to right, and then we will have a double arrow in the right. Now let's give a class name here, buttons, and I am providing the simple, like I will give the very basic styling. So whenever this is the machine coding round or any round, and you have to solve something, so your first focus is to build an MVP, something which is working. Not, you don't need to design it super, like you don't need to super cool design. So right now I am writing container, and I want is just a display flex, and I want to give, yeah, and one more thing I can do is justify content center. So if I do this thing, it's more than good. Okay, similarly I will use the buttons, and inside this button I will give it a display flex, and if I do this, so yeah, it's look good. The one more thing I have to do is flex direction. column here. So now it's look good. One more thing I can do is give a basic margin that will be 0 from the top bottom and 24 pixel from the left and right. And it's done. Just this basic styling. You have to majorly focus on the conceptual part. So I think this is the app.js. Okay, so there is some error. Each child in the list should have a unique prop. So here, what we can do, we can give a key here to resolve this problem. I can write item, and this is okay. So now this problem will go. Now our main work starts. So what we have to do, we have to write an on-click event on this button. But before that, we have to write a disable event. So like when it should be disabled. So I will write two functions. First is to find is our items is selected or not, checked or not. And second is we have any item in that list or not. So first of all, I will write has no selected item, and it will get list as an argument. And then what we have to do, this is my object, so I will say simply use a for loop. Let key in our list if list key is true. If list key is true, that is it is selected. In that case I will return false. If there is no key which is selected, in that case I will say return true. That means has not selected any item. Okay. So now if I come here, so I have to write disabled has no selected item, and I will pass this list name is, for this I will use list B because this is from right to left. So here it will be list B, and similarly for this we will have a list A. So now you can see these two buttons are disabled because none of them is checked. So if I check this button, now this button is enabled because we can transfer from these items to into the right. And similarly, if I check some of this item, again this will be enabled. So I hope you understand this. The second is I think very straightforward. That is if we have items in the list or not. So how to find it? So basically we can find it with the number of keys. If number of keys is 0, that means there is no item in that list. So for that I will use objects.keys, and inside that key I will write the list name. So when the arrow is from right to left, so I have to check the right list, that is list B. So if objects.keys list B dot length equals to 0, in that case what we have to do, it should be disabled. Okay. Similarly, for this we have to write here list A. Now the final and the most important thing is remaining, that is write a function for transfer. I think that is very straightforward if you look here. So what I have to do is let's add an on click event here. So let's have a disable in the next line. So here I will say on click. What you have to do on click? Just think about it. It's very simple. If you are doing an on click, so what should happen? Your whole item. This is from right to left. So all item in this list B should be moved to this item, and this should become empty. Okay. So just think about. You are saying set list A equals to all the item in the list A plus add all the item in list B. Just as simple as that. Similarly, what you have to do is you have to make your list be empty. You have to make your list be empty. So how to make it empty? Yeah, it's simple. It's that simple. Similarly, we will do it for this double arrow. So let's just copy it. First of all, let's save it so that it will get in this way. I will just copy it and I will paste it here. Okay, and here just I have to transfer, like this will be list A. Similarly, this will be list B first, and list A. This will be list B. This will be list A, and yeah, it's done. So now if you let me just show you. So if I click on this, all item goes here. If I click on this, all item goes here. Okay. So if I click here, if I click here. Okay, one more thing. So this is the same. So it should be this. Okay, so now it's good. So if I click on this left arrow, double left arrow, so it come on the left side. If I double right arrow, all this side goes here. Now if I check on it, so make sure this check should be preserved while transferring. So if I transfer, click on double, so it should be preserved. So the last thing that is remaining is on clicking this single arrow button, our checked item should be swapped. Like if I click on this Angular should add to the list 1. If I click on this button, this should be JavaScript should add this to the list 2. So how to do that? For that, I will use a common function that will be say const transfer checked item, checked items, and each its need like a list, let's say from and set from. So set from will set the list of the destination, and then we will have a to and set to. So I would never suggest to write a proper name like destination source in the machine coding now, because it's will be like you have to solve the question in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So it's like not possible to write all the best practices, design it very well. The very first thing is to write an MVP. Okay, so now what I will do, I will copy all this from and to list. So I will say transfer from, and I will copy this from. Similarly, I will say transfer to, and here I will say transfers to, and here I will copy my to. Now, what I have to do? Let's say if I have to add the anglers to list A. So what I have to do is, I have to take this list B and find all the checked item. Okay. So what I have to do is, I will say for let key in transfer transfer from. Now in this list, I will find if my transfer from list or say key, it will be transfer from key if it is checked. That means if it is true. In that case, what you have to do is you have to add it into the source list or to list and remove it from the from list or transform from list. So what we will do, we will say transfer to list should have a key that have the value which is like transfer from and transfer from key, or we can directly write true because we know this is the checked. Okay, so you can direct write the true, and then you have to delete your transfer from key. Okay, so finally what you have to do, you have to just set your to and from. So in the set to, I will write transfers to. Similarly set from, I will write transfer from. Okay, so I hope this makes clear. Now what you have to do, you just have to copy it and here add the on click event, and just you have to write the to and from list. Okay, so I will say, so here from right, that means from list B, that will be set list B, you have to set A, that means list A, and set list A. So let's see if it's working fine or not. So if I click on this button, so Angular should be as to list A. Okay, so it's working fine. So similarly, I will just copy this on click and I will add it here. And now rather than I have to just swap my to's and from. So just paste it here and let's see if it's working fine or not. Let's check out all the test cases now. So the very first thing is, if I click on this, all items should be go here. So let's check. Yeah, it's working fine. If I click on this, all items should go here, and it's preserve it check button as well. Now if you can see, this is disabled because there are no items. So if I do this, now this is disabled because there is no checked item. So if I check this enabled, and now if I do this and make it here. Okay, so I think this worked perfectly fine, and I hope you are able to learn things from here. So just let me do a quick revision. So what we have done, So we have a simple item list. So we create a simple item list so that we don't have to write the code for both lists. Okay, and in this item list, we passing the list A and the setter function. This is the set list function. So what it do? It will just show all the list and the input, and we have a simple label so that if I click on HTML, this checkbox will clear. So what I am doing is I am set list. I will keep my old list as it is. Uh, just change the just toggle the true to false, false to true on the list item, and then we will have four buttons. So very first button, what we are doing is in case of transferring all item, it should disable if and only if there is no item there. So we will disable if and only if there is no item there. Otherwise, what we will do, we will transfer all the item from the list B to list A. So this will add all the item of list B at the end of the list A, and we will empty our list B items. Similarly, we do for this double arrow. This will be the exactly same. Now for the single arrow, what we have to do, we have to find it if there is no selected items or not. So how to find it? It's very simple. You just have to just iterate over the object and find is there a key which value is true. If it is, then it's false. Otherwise, this is true. Okay, now this disabled is done, and on click what we are doing it, we are finding is there any item which is selected, which is checked in the destination, and we will add that items to our source. Okay, that is to list. So I hope you are able to understand this. Now we have to do, there is few more assignment that you have to solve it, and I will make a new video on that later on. So just try to solve this. So this is the follow-up question that come after that round. So what you have to do is you have to create one more button, and on clicking that, all the item of that list should be selected. And if I select one or two item, then this will be the indeterminate. That means the checkbox is some of item are filled, some of are not filled. And if I click on it again, so all item will be filled. If I again click it, all item will be unchecked. I can click on these buttons and it will work similarly as earlier. Okay, and we can transfer. If I click on this button, it will add all these checked items into the bottom of this item. So you see, added in the bottom. And now there is no checked item, so you can't transfer anything. If I click on this, I can do this. So this is known as bulk checking. Okay. So similarly, we can do bulk check here, bulk uncheck here. And the one more feature that we can do is here add a new item. So let's say we can say JS. So we can write JS. We can write CSS. So we can again write it. We can again do this. So yeah. So these are the thing that you have to do. Let me know in the comment section. Are you up for this challenge? And do share it this challenge with me on the social media if you are able to solve it. Otherwise, I will solve this question in the next video. So thanks for watching.